DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yuck, that was rough, man. The music is supposed to bring us energy. It is supposed to fire us up. Lonely John Denver wailing. He's the artist of the day today because he was born on this day in 1943. Hard to believe that if John Denver were still alive, he'd be 82 today. He passed away in 1997. But that just violated the sports radio, the credo. I mean, this is a welcome to the jungle type business, Yock. I don't know about that. Got to power through that. I got to overcome that rejoin music. Need some caffeine to get me over that thing. Holy thing, that'll put me to sleep. Fortunately, our next guest is here. DJ PK and Frank Dolce joining us. Frank, good morning.
Good morning.
What a tumultuous month in the history of University of Utah football. Frank, you played for the Utes. You've been watching them for a long time. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of noise. Now, people love to bang on the media. I get it. Yeah. I get it. It's fun. They got a loud voice. People want to have a voice. I think there's actually a lot of really good reporting over the last month. And yet at the same time, not everything, there's also a lot of noise, right? So if you want to underline one thing, one truth, and you think this is true and it needs to be noticed, it needs to be recognized, it needs to be absorbed, Frank, what is it you would do that you would underline, you would, the one tree in the forest you would highlight right now, given that it was a wild month?
You mean in truth in media? What is the one
just
thing
the way the whole
underline?
everything that happened in the Ute football world. Some stuff gets reported. I mean, a lot of stuff gets reported, but some stuff gets obscured. It needs to be highlighted. Like, this is true, and people really need to absorb it.
I think it's probably true that Coach Whittingham would have stayed one more year as the head coach at Utah.
Yeah. And Morgan could have ended up at Penn State or somewhere else.
That is also true, although I feel like Morgan Scally has had this particular job in his eyesight forever.
Oh, I agree.
He wasn't going to. He wasn't necessarily going to waver from that. Some of these schools, though, start throwing big numbers around, and maybe you do start to waver. But I feel like Morgan's had opportunities over the course of his career as a defensive coordinator, and he stayed true to Utah.
Yeah. I think that if he had, let's say in an alternate universe, let's say that perhaps Kalani Sitake goes to Penn State, and Kyle stays, and Morgan goes. I still think Morgan's a candidate to come back whenever Kyle is done in a year or two or three. Now, maybe Morgan, by doing that, opens the door for Jay Hill to be a candidate. So there's a lot of things at play there.
Well, the Jay Hill piece is interesting because
Jay Hill
you're exactly right.
Jay Hill will be a great head coach somewhere. I firmly believe that. Yeah. I don't know where, but I think he's going to get another job and he's going to crush it.
I think there's a couple things to think about that. One is, does Jay Hill want to be a head coach somewhere?
That's an excellent question. Yes,
I think that's a real question.
Yeah.
With his health things, and we've gone through that with his wife as well, and her health scares, and so I wonder if just it's pressure enough being a defensive coordinator, and then you add all the other stuff that goes on with being a head coach. I'm just not sure that he's willing to put his family through that. I don't know. I mean, it's just making some assumptions on my part, but I think that's something to think about. But he would be an excellent head coach somewhere. I have no doubt about it if he has that desire. It's really interesting though for the piece that you mentioned, like. If Morgan Scally has that in the back of his mind, like, wait a second, I'm the coach in waiting here at Utah. If I go somewhere else, man, Jay Hill's had a pretty good run down there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
if that opens up, do I have a shot at coming back? Or,
yes, he has a shot, but he doesn't have a guarantee. I think he definitely has a shot. I do not think he has a guarantee.
For sure. So I think that is a really interesting thing to to think about and to consider with that whole scenario. By the way, the Coach Whittingham going to Michigan deal wasn't just tumultuous for Utah, but it's been tumultuous. I still think it's going to be tumultuous for BYU, maybe some other programs around, not just with coaches potentially moving along, but with players moving along as well.
Yes, but I think that the coaches are going to have a bigger impact than the players, and I do think that Kyle will pluck some elite players. Perhaps one is already in the portal for the University of Utah. We'll see where he lands, but I think there'd be about 0 of our listeners who would be surprised if he lands at Michigan. So, John, I don't think anybody listening would be shocked.
0. Yeah. I think the number is 60% of the time you'd be correct.
Yes.
Every time.
There's NFL players on both rosters because we're at the point where they're playing in the Big 12, and they've always got NFL players, and Kyle knows who those people are, and if he has a chance to get them in Michigan, I think he will. But I don't think he needs a wholesale raid because I think Michigan has a pretty good roster. They got a lot of 4 and 5 stars. I don't think he has the appetite to turn over 70 players because I think that is not only not plan B, I'm not even convinced it's plan C. You do it if you have to, but you don't want to. You don't. No. You don't want to go anywhere near that. So I think there may be a couple players who go, but the coaches that he could take and the long-term impact they could have, that'll leave a mark on both staffs. But you're the one who want to be a head coach, and if you want to be a head coach, you know if you win. And Kalani said this at the bowl game. You know if you win, you're going to lose guys. They're going to have better opportunities. Position coaches are going to get to be coordinators. Coordinators are going to be head coaches. And sometimes you may lose people laterally. It may happen. And it might happen right now. So you got to be able to hire good people. That's always part of the job. Now, I didn't know that Morgan might have to do that part of the job right out of the gate, but he may have to do that part of the job right out of the gate in a big way. But I also think it's an opportunity because Utah, you can never be operating at 100%, but Utah defensively has operated pretty close to it. And in the run game, they've operated pretty close to it. In the passing game, it's been hit and miss. I think that the stink might be a hard word, but maybe we should just go with it anyway. The people got in their head that the Utes can't throw the ball. And there were seasons where that was true in a big way. Kyle was there 20 years. But once they got Tyler Huntley, and then they got another good quarterback, and then they got a really good offensive system. Now, in between, after Huntley and after Cam Rising, they had quarterback injuries mess them up for a couple of years. But they averaged 40 points a game this year. I would say that the Ute offense over the last 8 years, while maybe a little on the predictable side, has also been very much on the effective side. I don't think they would have been in 4 conference title games without it. They don't throw for 300 yards very often, but you don't have to win.
No.
However,
it's never been the formula.
It could be, but it could be tweaked. You can't tell me they couldn't have a more efficient passing game because they could. They could. Look, and not sacrifice their identity.
Dampier's numbers ended up pretty darn good this year in the passing game. The numbers look pretty darn good. There were some times when he threw the ball where you just scratched your head and thought, what in the world? But there were also times when he threw the ball and he made an unbelievable play in critical situations. So could the passing game be more effective for the University of Utah or for whatever this offense is? Yeah, absolutely. I believe that's true. I think Jason Beck did a nice job of realizing that. He tried to move the ball downfield. He tried to throw the ball downfield, but he always trended toward the strengths of that offense, which was behind the quarterback and the quarterback's ability to run the football. So that's the way he ran it. It was super effective. And he had an offensive line that could manage that. And that group really came along throughout the season. So, but I think you make an interesting point. With a different piece, a more effective thrower at the quarterback position, could that offense tweak a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. Could it be more effective? I mean, that's a hard thing to say. Could it be more effective? That's an offense that led
scored
the Big
41,
12.
41 points a game is excellent. And that's why when Kyle was asked, and I know you can sit over and say, well, they lost 2 games, and there's a few fourth down plays that they could have back. They win the rivalry game. They're 11-1. You can woulda, coulda, shoulda the thing. But 41 points a game speaks for itself. It's awesome. Doubt. It's an awesome number.
No doubt.
So if they don't, then the one thing they have to hold on to, and the thing that I think Beck brought a couple things, and you played quarterback. You know this better than I do. But I saw shades of Urban Meyer's offense in what Beck brought back. I saw way more deception with the motion man, the fly sweep, the faking the fly sweep. And if defenders hop one step to their left or their right, it changes all the blocking angles. And it can make a good blocker a great blocker when they got the angle can help them create a hole and it can help them create a lane. And so they need to hold on to that. What I don't understand, but I know what's happening, but I can't exactly map it out for people. There was something about faking the fly sweep. Then you have the handoff to the running back or the quarterback keeper. You're basically running a newfangled triple option. You're doing what Air Force and Navy have done for years. But you also had the run-pass option built in. And Kyle said in a press conference once when I asked him about it, he said, defenders are literally being put in a position where they can't be right. If they do one thing, there's a counter. And if they do the other thing to stop the counter, then they do the original thing. And as long as your quarterback can make a decision quickly and correctly, efficiently, then the offense is going to move the ball. And Devin Dampier can do that. He gets credit for a lot of stuff, but his ability to recognize and make the proper decision, no guarantee the next quarterback can do it. It did look like Bird Ficklin could do it in the limited opportunities he got, but not every quarterback will. Maybe they go 2 for 2 there. Maybe they've really identified, 2 players there. They certainly have with Dampier and they probably have with Ficklin. But can they maintain that, or is a new coach going to come in and want to do something different? If indeed the offensive coordinator is changing as we all expect.
Well, that may be one of those things that you underline too, is Utah will have a new offensive coordinator. So I really like that offense. I like the offense that Jason Beck ran. I think it's, I think it's kind of like, I would say it's like a Jeep Wrangler where you can add some accessories, or you can take it away, or you can modify it and make it do one thing a little differently, or you can make it do one thing a little different. But at the essence, it's still a Jeep Wrangler. But you can add all these things or take things away based on what you are trying to accomplish. I really like the way he ran that offense. I think you're right. Maybe we haven't seen anything like that since the Urban Meyer days. And so the big question is, does the next guy have that ability to run the offense the way Jason Beck ran the offense? Or are you looking at something that's going to be significantly different? I'm kind of leaning toward you're going to get something different, especially if some of the rumors are true, but you're going to get something different, but still based in the same philosophy of establish the run, athletic quarterback to throw the ball downfield with some efficiency. So a little bit of a tweak on the offensive side, but I don't think you're going to see significant changes on the offensive side.
Well, that leaves me intrigued, but I guess I'll just have to wait. I don't want significant changes. They threw 25 touchdown passes and 5 picks. Mostly those are Dampier's number, but Ficklin threw 3 touchdowns. Dampier touchdown interception ratio was 22-5. That's fantastic. The only thing with Dampier, the short passing game was good, the medium range was good, the deep passing game was not. And that might be more emotional than rational football because they were averaging 40 points a game and they did go 10-2. But people like 80-yard touchdown passes. Newsflash. And they do change games. And maybe they could have gone 11-1.
I watched. They should have. I think they should have gone 11-1. I watched a bunch of those games, obviously, and I watched the throws downfield, and I was the same. Like, what the heck is going on? You can't complete a pass downfield. And I've always said about Utah football, like, it's not necessary for the Utah football. Philosophically, the way they run that offense, it's not necessary to throw the ball downfield to be successful. They have other things that they do really well. It's just that I think maybe what we are thinking of is the possibilities, the potential for the Utah offense to be even better with that explosive part of the game. And so it's a funny source of frustration for fans because I do the same thing. At the same time, I say, wait a second. Utah football is based in foundationally it's based in all the right things.
Yes.
Be really good at the line of scrimmage. Establish the running game. Don't turn the ball over. High efficiency passing game.
Don't leave those. Don't leave those.
Yeah,
but
high efficiency on first down. Put yourself in good third down situations, like all the things. But can you please complete an 80-yard touchdown pass every once in a while?
Yes, but I think that the reason they need that is because the Utes have gone from the team that recruited you, that played in a terrible facility, in a second-tier league, and too often was in the second or third tier of that league, and struggling, right? To the point where they are now legit,
right.
top 15 program. But when you play a top 5 program, you lose the Rose Bowl to Ohio State, you lose the Rose Bowl to Penn State, a handful of conference title games, right? When Washington really had it going, they were so close, and Washington had a great coach, a great program. They were in the playoff, and you just wanted to be in the playoff. They didn't throw the ball well enough. They lost that game 10-3. Then they lost it on a pick 6 that hit the receiver.
Right.
And so the Utes have come a long, long way, and there are a million positives, but there is still a tier to go, and everyone knows it, and it may not be possible. I mean, these other history and tradition, and as good as the recruiting base is here, their place is even better, or they can recruit nationally, and the leagues they're in. Right, give them advantages with the TV contract, and the Utes have never had those. So you're looking for a way to beat the odds and move up one more tier when you've already gone up 70 steps on the ladder, and you want one more. And that seems to be the one thing, like, man, if I had that too, maybe we could pull it off. I think that's what Utes are thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. So, let's just take what Coach Whittingham is likely going to experience now as the Michigan head coach. Is you said it earlier. He can come into Utah right now, and he can cherry pick players.
He will, both recruits and guys on rosters. Yeah, I expect both those things to happen.
He can cherry pick players. As the head coach of the University of Utah, he had to go out, and this is what, this is just the nature of the beast. He had to go out and he had to find the diamonds in the rough. And then he had to develop those guys into big-time collegiate football players, and maybe even get those guys a chance to go at the NFL. When you step on the field at Michigan, when you're on the roster at Michigan, it's almost like, well, my next step is the NFL. Like that's the natural progression. That's the difference in the recruiting level that you get between Michigan and the University of Utah. And by the way, Utah and that coaching staff has done an unbelievable job of building up a program in that scenario of trying to find all the diamonds in the rough. We talk about it every single year. Oh my gosh, Utah has, this is the first 5-star recruit Utah's ever had. Oh my gosh, look at where Utah's built a program with a bunch of 3-stars. So I think that is one of those things that is really, it's just difficult to overcome. And unless you're going to have a Texas Tech billionaire come in and say, hey, here's $35-40 million for a roster and start buying players, everything, like for Utah, everything has to go the right way. The ball has to bounce the right way. A couple times during the football season, you have to stay really healthy. You have to be better and where you can be better, and that's what Utah's done at the line of scrimmage. All those sorts of things. And at other programs, Alabama and Ohio State, and you just have so much talent available. You don't always have to be perfect because talent is going to overcome some of the obstacles. So it's just a hard thing to overcome.
Well, you're the program where you have to recruit, as opposed to Norm Chow, who was at BYU and at NC State, and then he goes to USC and he tells us, we don't recruit, we select. Everybody already wants to come here. We don't have to convince them. 100% right. Norm has a way of saying truth, and it sounds like it's got a massive dose of ego with it. But when you really peel it back, you think, he just told me the truth. Right? And that's why you laugh, because you felt that, right? We don't recruit, we select. And it sounds so, and then you're like, no, but Urban told me once we're not really recruiting yet because right now a lot of guys still think they're going to USC. And when they find out they're not, then the next tier of us swarm these guys and try to say, come here, right? Yes. So when I put what Urban said next to what Norm said, I'm like, okay, well, that's the truth. That's reporting. Get your two sources. They just told me stuff about recruiting Southern California. I don't know. I don't recruit Southern California. I'm sitting here doing radio in Utah. And I think Michigan and Ohio State and maybe Alabama, there's a very few, maybe Notre Dame, there's a very few, Texas, very few that they get to select, right? There's 1 million players in Texas, and the Longhorns have to pick the right ones. And often they don't. And that's why NFL Hall of Famers who grew up in Texas end up playing college at the schools, not at UT. Because Texas has found a way to mess it up. And so Kyle gets that now. He gets to select. But as they said, I think it was the third Indiana Jones. He chose poorly.
You chose
He chose wisely.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how Coach Whittingham is able to manage that and how it works to bring. We've always said, what if?
Now we're going to get to see it. Yeah, we're going to get to see it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to go well for him. And, you can say I'm a local homer. Well, you know him, DJ. You've talked to him for so long. Over time, you've slowly started pulling for him. Okay, I'll just plead guilty. I don't even want to argue with you. Yeah, okay. Here's why. What's his record against Michigan and what's his record against Ohio State? Tell me about those games. He's coached against Michigan 3 times as a head coach. He's been 3-0. He coached 1 time as a defensive coordinator. They lost 10-7 because an NFL receiver made a great touchdown catch. A great touchdown catch. They lost 10-7 on the road. 3 of those 4 games were road games.
Yeah.
The Ohio State game, neutral field, Ohio State has an NFL quarterback and NFL wide receivers at every receiver position. Yeah. Utah starts the game with a running back playing in the secondary and finishes the game with a walk-on quarterback and still gets the game-time touchdown drive and loses on a field goal right at the end. Yeah, I think when it's a level playing field, Kyle's going to do well because it hasn't been a level playing field. He's gone 3-2, and even the 2 losses I look at and think, that's pretty impressive. And they didn't win, but it was pretty impressive.
No doubt. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I'm a huge fan. I love what Coach Whittingham has done. I don't think there's anybody that's gonna work any harder than he'll work. And I've been mostly around Utah football, but I stay very engaged in the college football game. I watch how teams play and react and all this stuff. I feel like Coach Whittingham's teams at some point in the season always they figure out the best way to win is to adopt his mentality of just, it's blue collar, it's pack your lunch pail, it's go to work, it's effort, it's commitment, it's attitude, it's all of those things. And if he can bring that culture to Michigan with the opportunity to also bring talent to Michigan, I think it's a really, really good combination. And by the way, when I think of Michigan football, old-time Michigan football, Coach Whittingham's old school mentality, that seems like a really good fit.
Yeah. Now, Michigan went 9-3, but they had a soft schedule this year. They only played 2 playoff teams. Next year, they play 4 teams that are in the playoff this year. They got Oklahoma in the non-conference, and they got to play Ohio State and Indiana and Oregon. 2 at home, 2 on the road. So Kyle really signed up for it. But, I would just say you're the one who wanted this job. So good luck with that. That's what you signed up for, and you wanted it. All right.
It's really funny. I don't know if he even realized he wanted it until things unfolded the way they did at the U. And then maybe he realized he wanted it. We talked about it with you and with PK, and I always felt like Coach Whittingham retiring was an odd thing. I just didn't know what he was going to do, and then he retired. And I was like, wait,
Yak will back me up on this. Whenever we talk about it, I say, I think a lot of things, I say a lot of things, but I don't want to crawl very far out on the branch because it's a highly personal decision, and he gets to change his mind. He does.
Yeah.
He gets to change his mind, and he has changed his mind on big decisions. He was very close to being the BYU head coach, and then he changed his mind and decided to be the Utah head coach. But he wasn't that far away from being the BYU head coach. And he gets to change his mind with retirement. He told me to my face when he turned 50 and everybody was teasing him about it. And he's like, if I'm doing this when I'm 60, shoot me. Like, well, number one, Kyle, no, I'm not shooting you. And number 2, I'm not forgetting that quote. And when he turned 60, I told it to him and he laughed. He remembered saying it. He goes, oh, well, things changed and the new league really invigorated me. It's a whole new set of challenges. Like, it's all true. He gets to change his mind. He gets to change his mind. And he changed his mind again. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. All
right, Frank.
I hope he's very successful. I hope Utah is very successful tonight. Should be a good game. I'm looking forward to the induction of the Morgan Scalley era.
I know.
It
starts with a W, right? They win this, right? They're not hurt by opt-out and coaches who are distracted with their next job. Possibly an offensive coordinator, an O-line coach, and a tight ends coach. For starters, I'm just saying.
That's a real thing. Is the coach being distracted? So I do put some weight into that, but I also feel like this could be a rallying moment for the University of Utah, for that football team. We lost our head coach. We're under all this distress, and guys are talking, and we're gonna go out and prove something. So I think they could utilize that and rally around Coach Scalley, and if you put down on paper, I mean there's I think Utah has the advantage. I would say that Nebraska has an interesting advantage in the fact that they've stayed mostly. Now they have some injuries and they're dealing with some of that stuff. But in terms of continuity, they are dealing with that. So, they're not dealing with that. So I think Nebraska, there is some opportunity for upset there, no question.
Frank, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you again. Enjoy the game.
All right. See you, buddy. Have a great new year.
You too, Frank. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Everything you missed in this show. Next, stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I don't like the pretty boy Rams coach.
Okay. I mean, Vikings very much have a pretty boy coach as well, right?
Not like the pretty boy coach.
You put him in L.A. and he's a pretty boy. That's the only difference. One of them lives in the Midwest and one of them lives in Los Angeles.
Except for the Rams one, McShay or whatever. Whatever.
McVay.
Was the first one that inspired all these other pretty coaches.
Yeah.
Kingsbury.
Yeah.
They put on the statement when they announced that Kingsbury was hired at Arizona that he was friends with McNugget.
McVay. I'm right. Give me an ugly head coach.
I mean, and then the Vikings.
Will Hardy's doomed.
The Vikings follow suit, hiring a pretty coach. What's the deal? What's his name in Green Bay? He's a pretty boy too, isn't he? LaFleur? What's his name?
Yeah, I'm with you. Give me a dog.
Bill Cowher, ugly guy.
Ugly dude. Belichick.
Ugly guy.
He's pulling 24-year-olds. Ugly guy.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Well, at least there's a little more energy there, Yak. There's a little pep in the step right there. John Devern, Artist of the Day. Time to tell you about all the stuff we've talked about in this show. The Jazz played the kind of game a lot of Jazz fans want to see. They played well. They did some things well. Keontae George, 37 points, 7 assists. His stats are getting better every month. You look at scoring, shooting percentage, three-point shooting percentage, free throw shooting percentage, rebounding. All the numbers are up from October to November and again from November to December. And the team won more in December than November because there's always that thing in the NBA. Regular season stats, if your team isn't winning, they're empty calories. Okay, well, it was leading to more winning. Now, everything's got to continue to get better. The trajectory, they've not arrived yet. The trajectory must continue, but the trajectory looks good. Not just year to year, but month to month. October, November, November to December. Let's see more in January and February. Jazz and the Clippers tomorrow night. Then the Warriors, Blazers, and Thunder. They play every other day, January 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. 4-game road trip. College basketball, a conference road win for Utah State. They went to Fresno State and beat a fairly mediocre Fresno State team, it looks like. 72-63. Michael Collins Jr., 18 points. Aggies get the road win. College football, we talked a little bit about TCU beating USC. How much does it mean? USC's down 12 starters. TCU's down a quarterback. Now USC, who thinks they're better than everybody, and the Big Ten, who thinks they're better than everybody. Yeah, now the 12 guys out really matters. Meanwhile, TCU's missing their starting quarterback over here. You know, the argument with the big leagues is, oh, yeah, you smaller leagues, you got some NFL guys, you got some good players, but you get past the starters, you get past the ones, you just don't have the same players at 2 and 3. You don't have the depth we have. You don't play the schedules we have. All right, now we see the depth. So now it's the fault of the lack of depth. And the Big Ten and SEC are just always going to move the goalposts. It's the way it is. But the Big 12, you just got to keep winning, keep winning. And a game that really matters is Texas Tech needs to beat Oregon. Texas Tech needs to beat Oregon tomorrow. And it would help if they really thump Oregon. There's a top tier. I don't think anyone debates Indiana and Ohio State. I do think there's a few eyebrows raised with Oregon. I mean, they've been good for 30 years now, so they get bonus points for that. It wouldn't happen in the NFL, but that's the way college football works. You do get bonus points for that. This particular team, you know, with the expanded leagues and you miss teams, it turned out, didn't happen to play the toughest schedule. And they had a chance at home against Indiana, and they got beat pretty soundly. They answer the bell in this one, all bets are off. Heck, the Big Ten could have 3 of the 4 semifinalists if things break their way and everybody plays well. Indiana and Ohio State can certainly win. And if Oregon takes down Texas Tech, Big 12 needs Tech to do it. And it would help if they did it in convincing fashion. We got another bowl game today at 1:30. Las Vegas Bowl, Utah, Nebraska. You'll hear the game right here on The Zone. Morgan Scalley, start him off the right way. We had Frank Dolce on. We had Riley Jensen on. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. PK's left for the game now. He's with us for the up until 9 o'clock. And the thing we all talked about is first impressions matter. Morgan's standing on the sideline. Recruits looking at him. Guys in the transfer portal looking at him. Guys on his team who might be going in the transfer portal. Look like a leader. Look like a winner. Have your team play well. Morgan's done a lot of this, but now the game management stuff falls on him. Do you call timeouts? You use your timeouts in the right way. Sometimes we've seen coaches not use them when they have them. Take them to the locker room. What good does that do you? Sometimes we've seen them burn them too early. We've seen players not out on the field. We've seen dubious fourth down decisions that we all argue about. Morgan needs all that stuff to look good, and they need to win the game. This is a team that scored 40 points 8 times in 12 games. And 2 of the times that they didn't get to 40, they still got to 31 and won the game, at Wyoming and at Kansas. Is the offense really going to click? Is the OC out of there? Is the O-line coach out of there? Is the tight ends coach out of there? Is the quarterback who it looked like he wasn't going to go in the transfer portal, maybe going in the transfer portal after all. Everybody else is taking off. Why not me? Man, any other players that could be thinking that. Are they going to pull together and look good and go out there and score 40 points? They averaged 41. Or they start throwing bolts, throwing washers. I could go on with the hardware. But everything I thought of might turn into a drop, so I just edited myself. I saw Yock in there. Go ahead, say it. Say it, and I will edit. And he's got that whole Smithers thing from the Simpsons, the fingers.
Excellent.
Excellent. Great drop, DJ. Thank you very much. We talked a little bit of NBA. The Clippers won again. They won 5 in a row. They were a disaster. Now Kawhi seems healthier. Kawhi's playing better. And they got 11 wins, only one behind the Jazz. The Jazz are sitting on 12 wins, but there are 3 or 4 teams that could pass them pretty easily. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to see the Jazz still play pretty well and end up with the 6th worst record in the NBA. I know a lot of you are tracking that, and as we get to 2026, we will see how that goes. All right. Anything else, Jock? Anything else we did cover, we should have covered, we need to cover?
We do have, obviously this time of year, we don't get a lot of soccer news. But did you see this morning, Brian Ojeda, RSL midfielder, apparently going to be sent to Orlando City in exchange for $1.2 million in general allocation money.
Interesting. Ojeda's out, huh?
So a move for RSL in the offseason.
And what will they do with that money, that allocation money? Does it come back with attackers? They had 4 guys in the midfield spot. Now, maybe they're bringing somebody in also, so we'll have to see how that works. Looked like McAnally was on the outside looking in. Maybe he's back in. All right. DJ and PK, got to take a break. When we come back, your feedback next. We got a poll question up. People have been voting all morning long. Utes going to win. How big are they going to win? We will get to that coming up, and your feedback on the question of the morning. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback, what you think about today's show. Big game coming up, 1:30 right here on the Zone. Utah, Nebraska. 40% of you believe the Utes will win big and cover that 14-point spread. 29% of you think they'll win but not cover. So we're looking at, you add it all up. It's right about 70% of you think the Utes will win. Nebraska, an upset, 13.6%. But 16% of you are saying, just tell me Kyle's staff. Who's he taking? Who's going? Who's staying? Ronald says the Utes win, cover, and then lose an OC and 2 position coaches. Yak, what do you think of that? Safe bet? He's thinking Harding on the line, and he's thinking Freddie Whittingham a tight ends coach.
Yeah, that seems really natural. Those guys would go with Kyle. They've been some of his
stalwarts.
Yeah, staunchest supporters / stalwarts on his staff, and the family connection with Freddie in particular. Yeah, those all seem very natural.
Accidental text on purpose. Good bleeping bleep. Bowl games do not really matter. And if they did, one game, let alone of third-tier teams, does not an argument make. Frankly, it's desperate. Okay, but don't tell me when your league's 6-0. Drawing any conclusions about any team from a non-CFP bowl game is silly at this point. All these teams have tons of guys just sitting out. They're just glorified exhibitions.
Tell that to Georgia Tech and BYU.
60% of USC's starting lineup opted out. USC fans are very defensive.
Okay,
Here's a stat for you. Ready for this? Remember that Pac-12 title game? Utah and USC? Both teams were 11-1. Or were the Utes 10-2? I guess the Utes were 10-2. USC was 11-1. And USC, 11-1, runs out there on the field. From that moment on, what is USC's record, Yak? That was 40 games ago.
20-20?
24-16.
Okay.
How long can Lincoln Riley survive that kind of mediocrity? You can say whatever you want about one game. That's a 40-game sample with a year and 2 games of Caleb Williams at quarterback.
And the other situation is he just lost his defensive coordinator, took their defense from horrendous, like we're talking bottom 10 in the country, to mid-tier, and you expect to, take another step? Question mark? I think he's got one more year to kind of prove it. I know he made a comment last night about it. He said, it took us 4 years to open this window.
Yep.
What window?
Yeah, I don't know. And especially when Indiana's over here and
Correct.
They go from nothing to something in 2 years.
And did it with like a third of the budget that USC boasts.
And Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech. Should I go on?
No, you're right. And that's so we opened a window. What window, Lincoln? 5th place in the Big Ten? That's not what USC's aspiring for.
DJ and PK, more feedback. Can't call it a bleep narrative. You spin that bleep all year. USC and Big Ten fans are really cranky. Meanwhile, BYU fans are pumped. Exactly. BYU's been robbed 2 years in a row, and there's a long-standing history of religious bias towards the school. Did BYU get left out because they're BYU or because they're Big 12? There's no way to define that since they're both things, right? You can just sit here and argue about that forever.
I think it depends on who you ask, the kind of chicken or the egg situation, because there will be people who tell you it's BYU and it stems from 1984 and then 96 when they got hosed out of the what was that, the Bowl Alliance is what that was at that point.
Yeah, I get the 1984, and I know that got under people's skins. I don't want to debate that. But I've always thought that this whole thing to control the bowls was about controlling the money. It wasn't
right
about who wins the title. Deep down, they don't honestly care. They just want to control the money.
Yeah, that's why you had guys like Greg Sankey saying, we deserve 7 teams in the playoff. Because guess what? That translates to millions upon millions upon millions of dollars.
Yeah, we'll update the SEC's record over the last 3 years. Leave the bowl games out.
Oh, no, let's
just
go
look
bowl games.
At their playoff
Let's look at this
record.
bowl season right now. Are they 2-5?
They are. And one of the wins is because an SEC school played an SEC school. Oklahoma and Alabama played each other, so something there had to happen there. But the last 3 years, you got Ole Miss beating the G5 team. You've got SEC on SEC crime, so they had to go 1-1 when Oregon played Alabama. And then the other win is Texas in overtime. So you beat a G5 school, you won in overtime, and you won when you played each other. You're 3-6. You're about to be 4-7, I guess. Because you're going to have another SEC versus SEC game, setting themselves up to get a Ole Miss Georgia winner has to go to the semifinals. Man. Tell that to the Big Ten fans who are, I can't possibly read those 3 words. There's no world in which that's okay. In which Big Ten fans are bleep about how good they are in their meaningless bowl games. That's the purpose of this post. People getting super defensive when they're. This doesn't happen in the NFL. When you attack divisions, everyone just kind of shrugs. But this is a sport. A Notre Dame fan, just LOL. Notre Dame, you're part of the problem. Like, you get special status because you got 100 years of history. The New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys don't get special status for 100 years of history. They have to win. They didn't win, so they're not in. All right, we're out of time. Coming up next, Ben takes over right here on The Zone.